Hello, welcome back to the workshop and welcome back to the Great Guitar Build-Off. Where we left off, we got the top on, we've got the pickup hole mounted, we've got the holes drilled for our bridge. This thing looks like a guitar. Everything functions so far as I have planned it to. So we're going to focus on a few things today. We're going to line up where all of the electronics go. We're going to line up where our tailpiece is, and we're going to cut out our tailpiece. Now I have this scrap elm that I used for my last Great Guitar Build-Off build that I'm going to use to cut the tailpiece. So basically how that's going to work is I've got this excess sticking out of the back of my guitar here, and I'm going to cut this piece of elm so that it'll slip right over top of this. And then once I get that all fitted and done in place, I'm going to cut it so it overhangs the body a little bit, and then that's going to give me the orientation of where I'm going to cut off this post exactly. And from there, I want to leave a little extra to leave a strap button on for this. Still not entirely sure what I want to do with the other strap button. I may just mount it straight to the neck along with the other one, so that that's just all in one solid piece and I don't have to worry about drilling anything else into this, because this horn, being as thin as it is, I don't think that it will take a strap button. So realistically, I think that the neck is going to be the most reasonable spot. So with that, I think we get the guitar out of the way and we start measuring out for the hole in this tailpiece. I want to cut the hole first before I cut out the actual shape. So that way I know that the hole is perfect and it will slide in perfectly, and that way I can get it centered so that I can then cut it even on both sides. Now, the reason I'm using this elm is because on that Great Guitar Build-Off top, it turned into this nice blonde gold color, which is going to fit with the theme of the red and gold very nicely. So I'm just going to find a center line for this. This is a lot wider than I want to make the piece in general. So I think that if I just roughly go off this edge here, there's going to be a little extra waste on this side here, but it's more than enough room for me to cut around and make that tail piece. And then as you see, as long as you do a couple marks on either side here and either side here, if your measurements are spot on, then all you have to do is connect those through the square line on here. And what's nice about the millimeter one I have is that the measurements are on both sides, so you can take the integers and match them up perfectly with that center line. And as long as you've got square lines, then you should have a perfectly square design on there. Now, what is going to be different about this tailpiece that I'm designing is that I'm actually going to make it lock in place. So I want to cut basically a square piece to make a keyhole, basically, that's going to stick up just a little bit. That way when I get it over the post, it should slide in perfectly and then come up, and then that pin will lock in place into the post. And then basically we're just going to cut all the waste away in here. What that's going to take is going to take a couple different drill bits. So I'm going to hog out the bulk of this, probably with a 1-inch Forstner bit, and then drill a couple holes in the bottom here so that then I can clean this up and square up the hole. And I'm going to make a point to do that on the inside of my lines so that I can file it until they're perfectly straight and perpendicular. Because the last thing I want to do is have it go in and then wiggle around. We want a nice snug fit but we want it loose enough where it slides easily. All right, we got our little Mickey Mouse design here. I'm just gonna take my coping saw and I'm going to cut out some more of this excess just to make sure that I've gotten a good chunk of the waste away before I start dialing it in and getting it nice and square. Alright, unfortunately I'm only down to one coping saw blade, but that took out a good majority of it and it's not terribly unsquare right now. So I'm just going to take it to the vise over here and I'm going to clean it up with various different files and then we'll test the fit. And then from there I'll draw on what the design for the final tailpiece is going to be. And I've got something interesting planned for this one. Alright, so we've gone ahead and we've cut down this tailpiece. As you can see, we're just going with a semi-traditional shape here, but I'm going to end up cutting out the radius from the top part of it here so that this will fit over top of the body. And then I want to also radius the inner part of it where it meets the body. So that's going to take a little bit of hand carving. As you can see, I've already marked where the body is, so that's where I need to carve away to get it to fit over top of the body. And you can see that I had a little bit of crack out here, which is fine because again, I'm going to be carving it down. First thing that I need to do is I need to, one, carefully cut out where that's going to meet the body. And then I need to route it down so that it's all level all the way across. And then from there we can start carving in where that rounded part is going to go so it'll go over top of the body. So I think what I need to do is the trick to stick it down and then I can start cutting away all this excess. All right, I've got this stuck down. I've got my line marked right about here. So I'm just going to start this off with my Dremel router. Try and carefully go along this line here. And then from there, I'm going to get out the big router, and that'll give me a line to show me where to stop so that I don't hog out too much with the big router. Does this ever happen to you? Introducing the Sqwayr X. From the same people that brought you the Sqwayr. Gone are the days of second guessing and using multiple rulers. Now you've got an easy all-in-one to get all the measurements that you need. This makes it easy. Order now and get your free custom-made case. You can slide it in a drawer. Put it on your messy shelf. Or drill holes in it and put it on display. The
possibilities are endless.
Thanks, Sqwayr.
Order yours today.
Alright, so now that I've got a nice snug fit, I've also found my center line here. I ordered all this brass rotting because I want to borrow an idea from Bennett Crimson. Now, if any of you have followed his Nebula build, the one thing I really liked about that guitar was the floating string design. And so I want to incorporate that into this tailpiece here. So I found this brass rotting, which will follow my color scheme really well, that is just thin enough to slip over the ball ends of strings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 6 holes for these to sit onto this bridge and stick out just enough for the strings to go over top of. And that will give the same floating string concept that was on that Nebula idea, but on a removable tailpiece. And I'm hoping that with them being as short a length as they are, this brass will be stiff enough to hold on to that string tension. You can see I've got a little bit of flex here, but it does take quite a bit of effort to try and bend it, especially the shorter that you make these. So I think that they'll be fine for the string tension. Alright, so I've rounded over this edge here, and I'm going to go ahead and drill some holes so that I can then sink these brass rotting into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tape, I'm going to mark off my drill bit so that I run them all in the same distance. And then from there I can finish shaping the top part of this tailpiece. Alright, so they all fit real nice and snug. So those will get epoxied in later. What I want to do is focus on finishing shaping off this bridge. I want to round over all these edges so that it's not so boxy. So we're going to curve off everything, and I want to put a slight slope on the top part of this so that the strings aren't resting on the tailpiece, so they're just kind of floating over it. Alright, and now you can see that it's got a little bit of a slope down. That way the strings can come up and just go straight over top of that. So now all that's left is just to finish shaping down all the curves and profiles on this. Alright, I figured to speed things up, we'd go ahead and bend the back, but in all honesty, you've seen me do this before, so I'm just going to use the same exact method. I'm going to trim off some of the excess here, and then from there, I'm going to use these bending straps to help push this down into the mold to help create the radius, so that I can then glue these two pieces together. Because I found what happened last time was heat made the glue separate between the seams on the top, so I ended up having to re-glue it anyway. So I figured, save myself a step and just bend them together like this, and then glue them up afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this down, get this in the mold clamped up, and then again we're going to let it sit for about 2 days to help it set into the mold. And we're then going to keep working on the tailpiece and the body just to help expedite the process a little bit. And just like that, we've already got one pre-prepared here. We'll go ahead and set this to the side for now. Alright, well, we went ahead and we did some shaping off camera here. You see it's got much more of a curvy nature to it, but I also went ahead and I sank the post in there. You can see how it's flush here. And it's a nice snug fit, which will lock it right in place. I am real happy with that result, real happy with how snug that fit is, and it sits just below where the bridge is going to be, so that'll work out perfectly for this seamless design. Well, at that I'm going to leave it here. There is still quite a bit more to do as I need to prepare for the back here, which I do have cut to shape, so we are just about there. We just need to add the bracing. I need to figure out a control cavity for it, and to be honest, I think I'm going to get a little ambitious on that one, but we'll get into that in the next video here. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned.